today. And it's time to welcome someone who's been very, very busy around the place. He's on the committee, he's studying the Unity teachings online with the Unity National School. So would you welcome Stuart Cardell? Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Reverend Bill. Nice to see everyone. So I might talk briefly about, just by way of introduction, my journey. I'm on a journey to ministry in the Unity Church. I'm doing the courses at Unity National School, which have been absolutely fantastic. I started my journey as a Catholic in the Catholic Church. Then I moved to the Baptist Church, where I was what's termed as a worship leader. It's a term that's used in Protestant Christianity for basically someone who leads the singing. I did performed big concerts like Festival Hall and Dallas Brooks Hall, which is fantastic. And one day I went to my Baptist church and said, I've been astral projecting. And they looked at me horrified. And I said, well, it's actually very informing because I'm certain now that I'm a spirit and not a body. And, you know, there's some credence in what we're No, they just shut me down. They said, no, that's definitely a no-no. So I ended up leaving that church, and I was a bit upset with the whole situation, but I took a long break from church. I did find myself at the spirituals church for a while, which I really liked and appreciated. And then my next move was to Unity, and I'll tell you how I got here. I started following some podcasts online, and one of the podcasts I was following was called Unity Online Radio with Reverend Paul John Roach. And one of the episodes I listened to was, Are We Still a Christian Church? And I was amazed because no mainstream Christian church would ever ask the question, are we still a Christian church? I really appreciated the boldness of that inquiry and the willingness to ask that question because Unity goes into a lot of areas which I'll go into in a little minute. So that was the point I decided to come to Unity. That was like, okay, I'm definitely going to that church. So then we had Chad Elliott perform here, and that was the moment I thought, okay, today's the day, I'm going to Unity Church. So I listened to Chad perform, which I really enjoyed, and then afterwards, back on the couch there, people were talking about tarot reading, astral projection, numerology. I thought, well, this is amazing, and I've basically stayed ever since. So I really found my home here, and I'm grateful to be here with you. And just briefly on this Christian worship leader thing, so there's an Eric Butterworth quote. I was never really comfortable with the term worship leader, even worship. I've got an Eric Butterworth quote here. It says, while the Christian ideal has been centred around the concept of worship of God, which usually means bowing before an altar, a statue or a church official, Unity is concerned more with finding a consciousness of oneness with God, and then seeking to express God in thought, word and act. So I really like that. So my talk today is in two parts. The first part is law, which is a brief contextual history of Unity, and the second part, order, is a discussion, a brief one, on the 12 powers with a particular emphasis on the power of the month order. Okay, so I do have some slides. Okay, so a quick definition of what law is. It's a body of traditions and knowledge on a subject or held by a particular group, typically passed from person to person by word of mouth. So, and then there's the definition of Unity. Unity is a spiritual organisation founded by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore in 1889. It grew out of transcendentalism and became part of the New Thought movement. And what's New Thought? The New Thought movement, also High Thought, is a new religious movement that coalesced in the United States in the early 19th century. New Thought was seen by its adherents as succeeding ancient thought, accumulated wisdom and philosophy from a variety of origins such as ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Chinese, Taoist, Hindu, and Buddhist cultures. So that gives you an idea of the milieu and the different influences, which I wanted to briefly touch on now. So I've got some slides. I wanted to talk about this too, and that's not a new thing. So one of the ancient libraries was the Great Library of Alexandria in Alexandria, Egypt. It was one of the largest and most significant libraries of the ancient world. The library was part of a larger research institution called the Museum, which was dedicated to muses, the 9 goddesses of the art. In fact, that's where we get the word museum. So this idea of gathering up different perspectives from different philosophies and religions is not a new thing. It goes right back. The library opened around about 285 BC. The famous library in Egypt flourished for 6 centuries and was the cultural and intellectual centre of the ancient Hellenistic world before falling into ruin. Now, the size of the library, there's estimates, but they vary somewhere between 40,000 to 400,000 scrolls, so perhaps the equivalent of roughly 100,000 books. The Muses were the goddesses of music and poetry. This meant that the museum was a religious institution and explains why its director was a priest. Okay, so here's some of the influences, and the following slides, they're not necessarily from the Library of Alexandria, but these kind of influences. So we've got this quote, which is, "Speak with kindness, for your words hold the power to heal or harm." Now, the reason this is important is because that's quite a fundamental precept of unity. You can see where these threads have come from. So speaking with kindness to others, obviously, but also to yourself, not to have negative self-talk, to have positive self-talk. You have the power to heal. We've got Socrates. So these are some of the influences from New Thought, which I'm covering very briefly. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So maybe not focusing on, I've had trauma in the past, I've had terrible things happen, but I try not to focus on that. I deal with it in my own way, but I try and focus on what I want to build, not how I was hurt, because I can end up dwelling on that and not really healing. So I love that perspective too. All things are possible. Who you are is limited by who you think you are. So it's a bit of Egyptian knowledge or Hermetic wisdom there. And that's certainly an aspect of unity, which I'm getting to at the end of this section. If you correct your mind, the rest of your life will fall into place. Lao Tzu. I find this very interesting. From these different philosophical or religious perspectives, they're all saying something very similar. Now, what my favourite, Jesus, said, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." And that's extremely powerful. He's not saying ask God, and if you're lucky, he'll give it to you. He's telling you you can create your own reality. And one of the important aspects of it is believe that you have received. So it's in the present, in the moment. Not that you will receive, not that you might receive, that you have received. I find that very powerful. One from Gandhi. If you don't find God in the next person you meet, it is a waste of time looking for him further. That's a beautiful one. And that's also, you can see these threads from all different sources have influenced the New Thought movement and certainly unity. Know yourself, and you shall know the gods. Ancient Egyptian proverbs. Basically saying the same thing. Oh, I really like this one. This is one of my favourites. So this shows the similarity between ancient Egyptian and Christ. So the ancient Egyptian proverb is, "The kingdom of heaven is within you, and whoever shall know himself shall find it." Then you've got Jesus coming along later saying the kingdom of God is within you, saying the exact same thing. So I'm definitely a fan of Jesus, I can tell you. Okay, so the teachings distilled down to 5 principles. I want to touch on this briefly. So according to Sylvia Cranston's book, HPB, The Extraordinary Life and Influence of Helena Blavatsky, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who founded Unity, were previously theosophists. And theosophy is a philosophy that draws from ancient religions and myths, especially Buddhism, Brahmanism, and teaches that God can be known through mystical insight. So theosophy is not that far removed from Unity and New Thought for sure. And one other quick reference, a little sidebar here, is the Magi in the Bible. So the 3 wise men they're referred to as were Magi, who were Zoroastrians who travelled from Persia to the then Roman-occupied Judea to venerate the new king. Now, these people weren't Jewish, they weren't Christian, they were coming from one of these other traditions. I would argue in a sense that they were Christians because they came to venerate Jesus. So that's another interesting thread, which is right there in front of us in the regular canonical Bible. Okay, so as I was saying, all of that is encapsulated really in the 5 basic unity principles. So number 1 is God is all good and active in everything, everywhere. Number 2 is I am naturally good because God's divinity is in me and in everyone. Number 3, I create my experiences by what I choose to think and feel about, I guess, myself and my life. Number 4, through affirmative prayer and meditation, I connect with God and bring out the good in my life. And number 5, I do and give my best by living the truth I know. I make a difference. So my point so far is all these threads of ancient wisdom and knowledge have come to us, and that's why we're here in a unity church. And I really like that. I'm very comfortable with that. I feel very much at home here. So the second part of my talk today is on order. So what is order? It's the arrangement or disposition of people or things in relation to each other or according to a particular sequence, pattern or method. So there are 12 powers in unity. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore created the 12 power system and detailed it in his book, The 12 Powers of Man, published in 1930. Fillmore believed that each of us received 12 God-given powers and that we could create the life we wanted using these powers. So this is powerful information. So the 12 powers are, powers exist in our mind as divine ideas. Symbolically, they are the 12 disciples of Jesus. Literally, they are the 12 centres of energy within each individual. That's a quote from Truth Unity. So here they are. Here are the 12 powers. You can see each month has a power, and at the moment we're in September, so the power is order. Each power is aligned or associated with a particular disciple of Jesus. Even Judas, I would point out, in December. There's a colour associated with each power, and this month is green. There's an aspect of your body, which is your temple of God, which is associated with a particular power, and it's the navel for September. And each of these powers has an affirmation. So the one for September is, I do not depend on shortcuts in my life. I depend on God's law of divine order. Okay, so in the revealing word, order is listed as the divine idea of order is the idea of adjustment. And as this is established in man's thought, his mind and affairs will be at one with universal harmony. And there's more specifically on order. Order is the intelligence of the universe, expressing through each of us. Would you say the affirmation with me? My life is balanced and in order, and all is well. Can we say it one more time, please? My life is balanced and in order, and all is well. Beautiful. So that ties back to the earlier slides I was showing, where and Jesus was telling us, you speak, you ask for it, you're going to get it. And there's something powerful about speaking out the words. So here's a quote from Charles Fillmore. All causes are essentially mental, and whoever comes into daily contact with a high order of thinking must take on some of it. Okay, I've got one other quote from Charles. Divine order transcends itself. This is from a work by Charles Fillmore called Order is Heaven's First Law, which I think is a very amazing and powerful title. Divine order transcends itself, radiates its mighty power into other faculties of being, and sets them into sustained activity, working for the demonstration of the perfect man. Thus, through the operation of divine order, the greatness of the soul is brought forth, and the nature of God is revealed. That's next. It's a sneak peek of what's coming up. So, to develop divine order in our lives, we must learn to cooperate with spiritual law. And I've got a brief summary here, and it's kind of concise. I would say that we create our own reality through our thoughts and words. We're fractal aspects of God, each and every one of us. So never belittle yourself, never feel down about your situation. You're God, you're an aspect of God, a fractal aspect of God. And I just say we create our own reality. So please, let's go on creating something beautiful here. Thank you so much.
Would you thank Stuart again? Thank you.